Hi, boys and girls. So I am going to review with you the anchor chart that we've created for improper fractions and mixed numbers. Okay, so first we started to talk about improper fractions and that they are not proper. And it's not that they're not fractions, they are, but they're not written correctly or properly. Okay? Because we talked about the rapping mathematician and how his song says, in improper fraction, yo, what's that? The denominator's skinny, but the numerator's fat. So we talked about how the numerator is actually bigger than the denominator, okay? So if we just looked at 13 divided by 4, what we did was we actually said that I have 13 out of 4. And we said, well, wait a minute. If I have 13 out of 4, I have more than the whole thing. So we drew a picture. We said, well, this is if I have 4 out of 4. But I have more than that. I have 13 out of 4. So 4 out of 4. Well, this, now I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 out of 4. Oh, but I have more than that. I have 13 out of 4. Okay? So 4, 8. Okay, now I have 12 out of 4. Very close. And then we said, well, you need one more. So I've got now 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, and 13 out of 4. So finally, I have 13 fourths. 13 cut into fourths, okay? But then we started to think about mixed numbers. So mixed numbers are a mix of a whole number and a fraction, okay? And so now I see the answer, but when we made this, we looked at this picture and we said, well, wait a minute. This is like 1 whole. This is like another whole, so now we're at 2 whole, 3 whole, and a little bit more. So we said it's kind of like you have 3 whole and 1 out of 4. So we wrote the mixed number, the whole number 3, and the fraction 1/4. It's 3 and 1/4. Okay, and then what we did in class is we said, well, that's how we changed from an improper fraction to a mixed number using a model, okay? Or you can even go from a mixed number into an improper fraction, and you can also use a model to change. It's called to convert, okay? A fancy word for change from one to the other is to convert. But then we said, well, sometimes drawing a model can be time consuming, and sometimes it can be actually confusing because there might be a lot in the fraction to draw. And so we said sometimes we use a model, but other times we can just use a formula. Okay, so we started looking at how do you go from an improper fraction to a mixed number? Okay, and how do we do that? Well, one thing I can see is when I look at the fraction 13 fourths, so my improper fraction 13 fourths, something very important to note is that this fraction bar here is actually a division bar. It actually means divide, okay? That's super important. And so because it means to divide, really it's 13 divided by 4. And if you do that, which we did, 13 divided by 4, you get 3 remainder 1. Okay, so let me just put it down a little bit so you can see our work. We said 13 divided by 4. 4 doesn't go into 1. 4 goes into 13 3 times. And that's 12. We subtracted and we got 1. So we got 1 as a remainder. And we said, so our answer is 3 and a little bit more. But I don't want a remainder as my answer. I wanted to change it from improper to a mixed number. So I say, wait a minute, instead of writing 3 remainder 1, I say I have 3 with 1 left over, but it was cut into fourths. Because remember, it's cut into fourths. So look at my mixed number, 3 and 1/4. So we just converted from an improper fraction to a mixed number. But we can also follow a formula to change a mixed number into an improper fraction. So let's look at how we do that. Now, one way I said was I drew this pink line here, and I said I used to call it the swirly. okay? And for the swirly, you multiply, then you add. So I multiplied 3 times 4 and got 12. And I added 1, and now I'm up to 13. So I wrote 13, and what was it cut into? It was cut into fourths. So I got 13 fourths. So I changed the mixed number back into the improper fraction. Okay? Another way I've seen it done is the acronym MAD, M-A-D, and I drew a mad face. So MAD just reminds you of that multiply. So multiply 3 times 4, you get 12. Okay, now we're at A for add. Add 12 plus 1. Okay, now I'm at 13. And then it reminds you, don't forget about the denominator. So 13, and what was your denominator? It stays a 4. So that's how we got 13 fourths. Okay, so this is a nice overview of improper fractions and mixed numbers and how they're both important in math and that we can change them back and forth. And they both show that you don't always just have less than a whole. Sometimes you have more than a whole. And so in order to represent fractions that are bigger than 1, we need to either write them as improper fractions or mixed numbers, okay, with whole numbers in the front. All right, and we will be doing more practice in class, but hopefully this was a good kickstart that you can use to rewatch if you ever need support in conversions.